So my group watched the documentary She's Beautiful When She's Angry. It's about the women's rights movement that took place in the 60s and 70s. One of my big takeaways from the documentary was the fact that there were all of these other movements going on at the time. There was the civil rights movement, there was anti-war protests, stuff like that, and there were a lot of people that were really supportive of these movements that these women were a part of. And when the women kind of took it in a different direction and started working with women's rights, a lot of the people that they saw that were really supportive of the civil rights movement and anti-war and were standing next to them and were protesting with them during that time, they weren't supportive of the women's rights. And when it came to that movement, there was a really big disconnect. And there were a lot of people that they thought were friends, that they thought would stand by them and be supportive of them, that weren't. They were attacked physically and, socially as well by the people that they stood next to and worked with. It was kind of shocking to me that happened as well, just because I feel, and probably most people feel, as though people who are supportive of causes for, the civil rights movement was for equality. Like, how can you then turn and say that you don't think that women deserve those same rights? And with that, like, what about Black women? What about, like, you're fighting for the civil rights movement for their rights, but are you only thinking about Black men? So I feel like that, like, really evoked a lot of questions for me about what the people that were supporting those movements, what they actually wanted. What did they actually support? Was it only that they saw men in it? Did they not actually think about the other side of it? So it definitely evoked a lot of questions for me, and I think that there's going to be a lot of research in my future about that. And with that, it kind of goes into the other aspect that was a huge takeaway for me, which was all of the subcultures that came out of the women's rights movement. At the beginning, there was a lack of Black and brown women that were represented in the movement. Or if they were present in the movement, they didn't feel as though they had a voice, because there are a lot of different aspects of that movement that were important to them. Like, they might agree on some things and they might disagree with some things. So even within this, like, really organized, like, social justice movement, there were a lot of people that may agree on one thing but disagree on another, and a lot of it was cultural. And race disparity as well, just because they were fighting a different fight than people who were in a different class than them, which kind of rolls into what Tressa talks about, like with abortion and healthcare and stuff like that. There were different concerns based on their class and their race. So there was a lot of subgroups that ended up being formed within the women's rights movement, but they were still really supportive of one another. So even though they might have had different wants and needs, they still made sure that they were on the same team at the end of the day.